Let's dive into the discussions shaping the nation.
5 minutes, Deputy.
Gurmagad Chan Coirle, I dúspóir bhhaile mar rá go dtím go dtíreach an méid obair atá ann chun Oireachtas a chur le chéine agus an obair sin siúl tá sa goin gohfuil daoine fud na tíre tá ag éirí policy a chur isteach sa chlár sin agus na rudaí atá tábhachtaí dóibh san a bheith ann agus a bheith I policy on Oireachtas freisin. So it's a big job to put together a policy and a programme for government like this, and I think huge credit is due to those who were involved in negotiating this plan, putting it together and putting in so many things that are so important to communities throughout this country. I don't underestimate the amount of work that is involved in that, and I don't in any way gainsay how difficult it is to put together something that is on the one hand achievable and realistic, but on the other also addresses the concerns that so many people have around the country. That said, I just want to address some of the issues that I think are important within the Oireachtas. And as somebody who practices in the courts and as a criminal barrister, I think crime is something that was front and centre. It's something I did a lot of work in the last 5 years, but I really do think that the targets set for recruitment of Gardaí are hugely important. We cannot possibly hope to address issues of crime, but specifically address issues that people have about feeling safe in their communities if we're not putting in place the Gardaí required to deliver on that. And so recruitment of Gardaí is really, really important, but also putting in place incentives to encourage people at a time when we are a victim of our own success because of the success of our economy and because of the extent of employment in the country at the moment, to encourage people to take the step towards the selfless act that is becoming a member of An Garda Síochána. It is something that I think is probably more vocation than job, but we need to make it easy for people to make that choice. And in that regard, I certainly welcome the target set in the programme, but I also think it's important to put in place additional incentives to achieve those targets. And some of the difficulties Gardaí have in particular is housing. And I know we've heard a lot about housing, but in my own constituency in Dún Laoghaire, it's probably the most expensive constituency in the country, or one of them, in which to live. So for a probationer Garda or a young guard coming into the Dún Laoghaire area to live, it's a really difficult challenge. And I must say that I would like to see us putting in place specific supports, including the provision of accommodation where it's appropriate for young and junior Gardaí to allow them to go to work in any station, whether it's in a rural or urban area, but obviously it's a particularly acute problem for me in Dún Laoghaire. The other thing I would say is, and although the plan doesn't go into the specifics in this regard, I do think we need to be looking at opening more Garda stations in areas where there is population growth. One of them that occurs to me is Cherrywood, and I would very much hope that the Minister for Justice, when he is looking at these issues, will consider the establishment of a new Garda station in Cherrywood to serve the new community. We have spent a lot of time and energy over the last number of years developing the special development zone in Cherrywood, which is now beginning to burgeon and grow, and there are many, many people moving into what will be a wonderful community. But we also need to put in place a Garda station to help to police that area, but also to serve the wider community. And it is a good location because of the road infrastructure there and the access to the surrounding areas. Equally, in terms of policing, road safety is something that's hugely important. We have not had success in that regard in the last year, and I think we need to focus on putting in place facilities to convince people that if they are going to break the law on the road, they will be caught and there will be consequences. And that's something I have raised with the Minister already. Equally, in the area of transport generally, I think we need to be ambitious. I'm glad to see ambition in relation to public transport and a metro for Dublin, and I think we need to progress that sooner rather than later. Every year that we delay, it's going to cost more and more. But the other issue in public transport is accessibility. At the moment, you have a preposterous situation where people who are mobility impaired, who use a wheelchair, use other devices, have to give notice to the likes of Bus Éireann or Éireann O'Dearn that they're going to use public transport, 24 hours notice in some cases. That is absolutely unacceptable. It needs to be eradicated. We need to have fully accessible public transport throughout the country. In the area of Gaelscoileanna as well, again, in my own constituency, there are only 2 Gaelscoileanna, one a Deis school, the other Scolarchan, a very well-established Gaelscoil. We have 2 excellent Gael Coláistí in Coláiste Íosarán and Coláiste Owen, but what we also have is a dearth of Gael Coláistí for people in the surrounding area to graduate to after the Bunscoil level, after the Gaelscoil level. And there is a real problem problem with the way the Department of Education assesses the need for them. There is a need, and they need to be proactive in establishing where there is a need for Gael Colosty to make sure that Tishmahori go watlo on Gael de Shakar fáil de Fosti is go féidir lo é sin dhéanamh. Gur magat.
Like, share, and subscribe, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.